you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, we're on. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit. And of course, like the page People's Pundit Daily on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube if you didn't already. Yeah, I'm like screaming at Laura with the headphones on. That's what that was. And she's like, okay. All right. So anyway, here we are. Let's today talk about building this survey, because it's very important we don't leave this up to the same people who blew the election, right? So again, let me repeat myself a million times, because you have to in this business. If you can't poll an election, then you can't poll anything else. The only test for a pollster on their accuracy or their competence is whether or not they get an election correctly. We have no other way. They can release polls all they want that says, you know, this percentage of Americans support this many support that, oppose this many say this, believe that, think this. It doesn't matter. If you can't get an election correctly, then who the hell cares what you have to say? Who cares? And with something as important as the integrity of our election result, then we really can't leave this up to the other guys. So this is what I was thinking, all right? As of right now, we've crowdfunded enough to basically do a national poll. And I was thinking, instead of a national poll, where is this relevant? We should do just the states that matter, right? The states in question. And I'm thinking perhaps the Rust Belt states, all right? Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and of course, Michigan. And I don't know, maybe, perhaps, depends where we end up. But today I'd like to just basically, we'll talk about what's going to be on the questionnaire. All right. And then also, before we get into that, it's really clear. You're looking at Twitter, you look everywhere, and what you see is how safe and robust how safe elections are, how intact integrity is, and how robust these safeguards are. That is a load of crap. Many of these same experts that are being quoted by these media outlets now, just 4 years ago, were talking about how Russians hacked the election and colluded with Donald Trump to steal the election. This is a load of nonsense. Whatever safeguards there were in place, were removed in the months leading up to the election in the states that are now in question. If you watch this show, you are not fooled by this nonsense. You know, because we went over it all in great detail. So let's do it one more time for these phonies. Everyone gets a ballot, or that is the goal. These were the goals. In prior years, ballots must be requested, and inactive voters must update their information. Even the dead, change of address flags, and other inactive voters are and were intended to receive ballots and or ballot requests. They got what they could get in the end. All right. Number two. So number one is, what is the point of this? Vastly expand the pool of ballots to get your hands on. Vastly. And did it work? Have we ever seen this many votes in an election? Is this explained by population growth? Did it or did it not work? It worked. Joe Biden received more votes than Barack Obama in his 2008 landslide, yet managed to lose Florida by a bigger margin. Yet managed to lose Ohio by an historic margin. Yet managed to lose Iowa by a historic margin. And you didn't watch it. What are the odds yesterday? We're going to go over that again a little bit today before we get into the poll. But the point, vastly expand the pool of votes. And these frauds, these hacks, because I know, because they've been calling me for weeks, are not interested in chasing any of this down. They are interested in discrediting and banning people who are investigating it. PolitiFact is a politi-hack. All right. That's what they don't care about the truth. They're not fact checkers. They're frauds. They don't care about the evidence. They care about getting as many entries or records as possible and then running to their ideologically aligned friends in state departments in these respective states to try to tip them off. And we will prove that, by the way. We will prove that is what journalists did. There is no other reason for the Michigan Secretary of State, for the Pennsylvania Secretary of States to be deleting records. 2, no verification procedures. Put a moratorium on the so-called robust election integrity laws that you've been hearing about over the last few weeks. There were no verification procedures for vote by mail. And if there was, then let's see them. Let's see them. We're just supposed to believe you. We're supposed to believe these hacks in Philadelphia who have decades-long history of voter fraud, who have federal judges overturning elections before because they've been so corrupt, who have had indictments in the very months leading up into this very election. We're supposed to believe you? In Pittsburgh, we're supposed to believe you? This is why I get so angry, because they know they're lying to you. They don't believe elections are secure. 4 years ago, you heard about how insecure, in fact, they were, didn't you? They're liars and frauds. They are complete and total shills. They lie with ease that will make the devil proud. No verification procedures for this now rapidly expanded pool of ballots that were flying all over the place. Democrats did not want signature match and do not want signature match or other verification standards often required by state law. And in the case of Georgia, you just had a bunch of cowardly Republicans in an inept administration that got railroaded. Chumps. And number 3, and by the way, that's what all of this is about. Let me go back to 2. It's all about the signatures. It's all about the signatures. Let us see the signatures. Why would you kick out poll watchers? Why would you keep them at a distance? Laura, I can't stand the social distancing crap argument. You're sitting right next to me. So you can count a ballot right next to me. You can be another election official who is tabulating ballots sitting right next to me. But there can't be a poll watcher a similar distance away over your shoulder watching what you're doing. Well, you understanding what I'm saying? Yeah. This is ludicrous.
Well, Democrats are immune, remember?
I guess. And in many cases, these were required by state laws. So whatever verification procedures were in place before the election, they were removed in most of these states. And in the areas where they were not removed, there is no doubt about the election result. In fact, they're not even close. They're not even close. There was no counting of massive chunks of ballots at 4 a.m., at 4:20 in the morning. There were no lies about whether or not, they were going to go home and come back later in the morning. There were no differences in the amount of ballots reported and the amount that later showed up. None of this is in question in those states. But where they got what they were asking for, or some semblance of it, which is what I have been saying, a moratorium on election integrity laws, robust safeguards, my foot. There are no safeguards. They were gone. And 3, ballot harvesting was one of their biggest and final requests. Some they got it in some places, including in states where it's illegal, and then in like Nevada, and in other areas like Georgia where they did not get it. They just did it anyway. And when someone like me goes to Twitter to tell you about it, they remove my tweet instead of their tweet. They weren't even trying to hide it. This nonsense. And the conclusion always was that there was no innocent explanation for this. COVID-19 does not prevent you from being able to sign your name.
You missed that memo.
You lose your sense of smell and your sense of taste. You do not lose your unique handwriting abilities, your handwriting styles. It is not in Wisconsin a legitimate excuse for being indefinitely confined. All right, now, without spending too much time on this crap, because it's total nonsense, complete and total nonsense, let me briefly go over what we went over yesterday, okay? And because I know some of you didn't see it, all right? Up in the top left corner, you see what are called pivot counties in yellow. This is Iowa. I chose Iowa because demographics that are similar to other pivot counties in other states such as Wisconsin and elsewhere where the vote is in doubt. Also, reason 2, I picked Iowa because Iowa has the largest number of pivot counties in the United States. All right, there is no other state where there are more pivot counties with more predictive value. And what I mean by an anomaly is something that deviates from what is standard, normal, or expected. And I retweeted and responded to the president because he is absolutely right. This election is filled with anomalies. It is an anomaly that the president's party recovers most, if not all, of their losses from their first-term incumbent midterm, staves off challenges from the upper chamber, keeps state legislative districts, and wins pivot counties, but somehow the president is not reelected. That is an anomaly. 31 pivot counties in the state of Iowa, the most of any state that voted in the last 6 decades, and we're talking about pivot counties. It has any of the most that voted for Donald Trump in 16 and Barack Obama in 08 and 12. These 31 pivot counties represent more than a quarter of the votes statewide, more than a quarter of the population statewide in Iowa, and have correctly projected the national election result more than 70% of the time since 1960. 6 decades, folks. 6 decades. And there wasn't, and we're supposed to believe that Obama, who did, look at all the yellow counties in the top left corner. Barack Obama won those counties. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then the map to the right, the smaller map to the right, is the 2016 result. The big map right in front of your face is the result from 2020. In other words, Joe Biden didn't win a single pivot county in the largest pivot county state in the country with very high predictive value. Not a single one. Winning 19 out of the 20 top bellwether counties in the United States of America and losing a presidential election is an anomaly. winning the highest number of votes ever for any presidential candidate and defeating an incumbent president who won the most votes ever for any party incumbent president, yet losing the most pivot counties ever is an anomaly. It's a serious anomaly, one you can't glance over with some bogus fake fact checks about robust safeguards. This is a load of crap. This is simply fabrications that they are making up after an election to explain away all of these anomalies. Period. End of story. Let's look at some of these counties because they matter. They matter a lot. Not only did Joe Biden not win any of these counties, folks, if it is in blue, it means Joe Biden improved on Hillary's margin, but it does not mean that Joe Biden won them because, as I said before, he lost every single one of them. And actually, I'll make this bigger so you can see it. If it is in yellow, it means it is statistically significant for some reason or another. Well, not some reason. There are two reasons why it would be in yellow. One, because of Obama's margins, they did not dip that much from 08 to 12. So we're not talking about this like normal shift from Democrat to Republican. You know, over time, the county was blue or it was a swing and later became red. Obama didn't really lose that much of the vote share there, and even though he lost 6 points off of his total 12-point margin in 12. So in 08, he won by 12 in Iowa, and he defeated John McCain by 12 points. And in 08, and in 2012, he defeated Mitt Romney by 6 points. Okay, so these counties that are highlighted in yellow either are counties where he did that is not driving force behind that margin shrink. And then two, because they might be demographically similar to another county or other areas of other states, such as southwestern Wisconsin, where we would have expected to see similar shifts in the vote, but we did not. Or Joe Biden did better in some area, which is comparable. And it simply doesn't make sense. It's an anomaly. You understand what I'm saying here? Alameda County was one that slid away from Obama by about 10 points. Trump increased his margin there from 24 to 29%. All right, I'm going to run through these first four. Boone, Obama won it by nearly 8. In 12, he won it by nearly 7. So that actually should be highlighted in yellow too. Trump won it by 14, and he won it and expanded his margin there by almost 16%. Bremer County, that is an area where Obama slid a good amount. He won it by a little over 9, then just under 3, and Trump flipped it. It was plus 14 Trump almost. Now it was plus 16. So another expansion there widened out his margin. In Buchanan, this really should be another one that's in yellow, but I kept it off because of its demographics. 18.5-point margin victory for Obama in 08, but in 12, just under 14 points. Trump expanded that margin by 5 in Buchanan, from 15 to, by 6, if you round up, by 15 to about 21 points. In Cedar County, Iowa, Joe Biden actually, are you ready? He did 0.7 of a percentage point better, or he kept Trump from doing 0.7 of a percentage point better, because you have to understand third parties were not as strong this year. So some of that has nothing at all to do with Joe Biden. But this Cedar County is a great example of why Nate Cohen is a fraud or just really bad at his job, because with the third parties off the ballot, this is a county where you would absolutely have expected Donald Trump to get clobbered if you believe the New York Times polling. Donald Trump to get clobbered among those third parties, where it could be, a significant 7 to 9 point swing, something in that ballpark, which would have drove Trump down to maybe like plus 5 to 8 instead. Anyway, so Cerro Gordo, same story there. Trump did about a point less. That was a county. It's still, though, he carried it. And that was a county that Barack Obama, with Joe Biden on the ticket, once carried by 21 percentage points. All right. Keep going down the line here. You see just Trump widening out, 23 to 32, 28 to 36, 23 to 29. It's just one after the other. Clinton County is a big deal because of demographics and because of how strong these counties were for Barack Obama. Clinton stuck with Barack Obama, even though the state itself swung 50% in the other direction. It voted for Barack Obama by 23 percentage points, just a little bit over. Voted for him by just under 23 percentage points in 12. So no slippage from 08, almost like barely nothing. It was statistically insignificant. And then Trump flipped it in 2016. It went 5 points. And then it continued to shift to Donald Trump by over 10. This is an area where you would have expected to see, where's the bleeding here? Where is the bleeding in middle swing America? Because Clinton County is middle swing America. Where is the bleed? Des Moines, another middle swing America. Where's the bleed? Donald Trump increased his margin from 2016. Once a county that went for Barack Obama by 23 points, then 18 and a half points. Expanded for Donald Trump against Joe Biden. Dubuque, one of the hardest ones for Donald Trump to keep. One of the ones we absolutely would have expected to swing back to Joe Biden if Joe Biden was going to win pivot America, win swing America, win middle America. This would have been a county to go. And yet, what did we? Because Trump barely carried it. Little over a point against Hillary Clinton. He carried it this time by almost 3 points. That is the quintessential county that you would have expected to see this go. Jackson County, by the way, once a 25-point Barack Obama county, now over 26-point Trump county, an expansion of almost over 7 points, about 7 points. Jefferson County, a lot like Dubuque, absolutely a county that you would have expected to swing back in an election where America said, you know what, we're done with Donald Trump. This is absolutely that area. Jefferson County went more to Donald Trump than it did against Hillary Clinton. He barely won it by a half a point. A half a point in 2016. And he widened it out in 2020. Where'd those third-party candidates go, Nate? Where did those third-party voters go, Nate? You're such a fraud, man. They can't answer any of this, so they just, like they do with polling they don't like, they just try to, smear you and then go on and on about how there are robust safeguards and other bullcrap nonsense consensus, like the word consensus during the, attack and pivot and attack, pivot and attack. They cannot actually answer the questions. They can't address the allegations. They can't address the statistical anomalies. So they come up with these Goebbels-like tactics and just start redefining words, using cute little phrases, tagging little videos. Why didn't Jefferson County swing back, Nate? Why didn't Dubuque swing back? Why? I mean, this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. Union County, that is an area where Union and Clark are right next to each other. But we do have it in yellow because of its demographic significance. And it just kept on going to Donald Trump. And we could just keep going down the line, but you get my point here. There's 5 counties where Donald Trump's margin of victory got smaller. But at no point did it look like Joe Biden was even coming close to flipping any of these. We have similar counties in Ohio we could go over if I wanted to. Trumbull, Woods, just keep going down the line. There's just everywhere. Juneau County went over 60% for Donald Trump in Wisconsin. So where did Joe Biden get these votes if he did not win them in middle America? Because he didn't. He did not. And why am I choosing Iowa and Ohio? Not because Donald Trump won them, folks, but because they didn't go down this rabbit hole of reforming, radically changing their election integrity laws or radically weakening them before the election. They tried, but it didn't happen. And they did try. They tried everywhere. They really did try everywhere. Some places they were more successful than others. All right, so we're going to ask, because I do feel that public opinion is like changing now. Most of the time, Americans just want to move on. Most of the time, Americans really just want to move on, folks. They just want to be done with things. They may not like the result, but that's why Al Gore got smeared as a loser who, was a Gore loser, right? This is different.
Hey, he was president for 32 days.
This is, and by the way, the same people who were coming up with all these ways that Gore could prevent Bush from being president are now the same ones who are making these ridiculous comments about how certifications are that's it. It's a certification. I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything. It just has no impact on the Electoral College itself. It doesn't. The truth of the matter is, and I don't want to get into this. I mean, my thing's about numbers, but the truth of the matter is these legislators are just afraid, which leads me into the poll. They're just afraid because all they ever care about is winning elections and media narratives, right? And getting attacked. That's why it's so important to conduct this poll. Look, if it comes up and it says that Americans want to move on, then I'll tell you that's what it says. And that's it. You'll just have to accept that and move on. If you're someone who does believe that there are problems, you'll have to accept that you're losing the information argument. But I don't think Trump is losing this information argument. I mean, information war. I really don't think he is. I think the media can do as much as they possibly want to try to, look at this stupid one right here I'm looking at on Twitter right now. They replaced something that was trending about the FEC chairman saying that he's read over some of the evidence the Trump campaign has, right? They replaced that with how election and fraud is exceedingly rare, experts and analysis say. These are the same experts that were just going on and on 4 years ago with no evidence whatsoever that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians to steal the election, that there were Russian hackers who broke into the election, which is why I tell people, maybe there's something there, guys, with those machines. That is not my kind of gig. It's just not. What I am telling you is, I like numbers. I like numbers. I need multiple data points to convince me of something. I don't want to hear about some whistleblower and some voting system. Maybe that's something down the line. Right now, what I care about is whether or not this becomes permanent. If this becomes more than a moratorium on election integrity laws, then we're going to have a lot of problems in this country. And Americans should understand the rolls are dirty and it's very easy to cheat. Forget about that being a lie, that there are robust safeguards. It is in fact easy to manufacture votes, vote ringing, ballot stuffing, drop boxes. This is easy if you don't have anybody verifying the result of verifying the legitimacy of a ballot. I have a hard time swallowing all these anomalies while I look at it's the totality of it all.
Too many coincidences.
It's the totality of it. Yeah, too many coincidences. And then because what we know, which this week we are going to start going over some of the results of what we found. I mean, you have to take in mind that I'm reading how it's so hard to cheat, and then I'm finding crazy anomalies. So I'm talking about specific records. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating, to say the least. And the media is so corrupt, Laura. They are so corrupt. I mean, it's way beyond anything that people may even think. It's so corrupt.
And then I also think the problem that we're dealing with, which you've heard me say plenty of times, is that there are too many people that want to be Trump's hero. And they are actually circumventing one another from getting to the end game.
Yeah, that's true. And Barnes was on What Are the Odds yesterday, Monday, and he's more critical of them, than I am publicly. But the truth is, there are a lot of people that are in roles that probably should not be in those roles, right? So it has always been about the signature verification first and foremost. It has always been about that for two reasons. One, because that's the most easily identifiable issue, right? First and foremost. I mean, if you are dead or if you are gone and you no longer live in the state, or if you didn't vote and someone voted for you, then we would know whether that signature matches. And what do I mean by what we're finding as far as anomalies? There are way too many instances in Georgia, specific counties in Georgia specifically, where there was supposedly an absentee ballot that was sent out, that was requested, sent out, and returned, and yet had to be scrubbed because the person showed up on election day. Does it happen? Yes, it does. There are mistakes, and everyone's human, and sometimes it has nothing to do with whether something is sinister or whether there's some kind of grand scheme involved, but there is never this many. And I'm not talking about because we expanded vote by mail. I'm talking about proportionately. And the same thing goes with rejection rates, because those kinds of rejections are not in the rejection rate. All right. So a normal rejection rate in Gwinnett County, 7 to 12%. In Fulton, because we have to go back to other years too to look, to be able to compare. In Fulton, they rejected almost nothing in 2018. So we should have seen that coming. If you could just, but we're only talking about 2022, or in 18, it was like 24,000 mail-in ballots. We're not talking about that much. Fulton County has hundreds of thousands of absentee ballot records in the CSV file. It's a gross expansion, a very rapid expansion. And because of that, you would absolutely expect to see a higher rejection rate, or at least a historically normal rejection rate. But we don't. We don't at all. They reject almost nothing. Now, there are cancellations, again, not in the rejection rate. There are cancellations for administrative calls. We can't even get a good answer on what they mean by that. And I'm giving them specific voters and say, why was so-and-so's ballot canceled for administrative calls? Crickets. And PolitiFact and the rest of them don't give a damn about chasing any of this down. All they care about is running to the election officials, and they come up with some cute little excuse together and try to scrub the files together and make everything fit and match. I got a much better idea. How about we just get to see the signatures? How about we just get to see the signatures? Which leads me to the second reason why everybody should have been focusing on this from the jump. Bush v. Gore. It's that simple. Bush v. Gore. You cannot treat voters differently. You can't treat election day voters differently than you treated absentee ballot voters. This is low-hanging fruit. Right. It is not equal. This is low-hanging fruit. You didn't need to reinvent the wheel. And it is true in Georgia, they made it so it wasn't necessary. But that doesn't mean it's a lawful action. It doesn't mean it's lawful. In Florida, perfect example, you go and vote on election day, you are subject to signature verification. You go to cast an absentee ballot, you are subject to signature verification. End of story. End of story. Every voter is treated the same, which brings me to the poll. All right. And I'm going to take a quick 30-second break. We are going to ask, that's one of the things we're going to ask about, whether or not it's okay, or whether or not people support or oppose that voters are treated differently depending on the category or the mode of voting. So if you vote by mail, should you be exempt from verification procedures? You'd be shocked, because we have done polling on stuff like this in the past, never in the heat of the moment like this, but you would be shocked how much of a, you want to use Nate's word, consensus there is in this country, really, to, irregardless of party. Believe it or not, Trump supporters, most Democrats don't like the idea of stealing elections. I'm talking about Democratic voters.
Oh, you mean the voters?
Yeah, I mean the voters.
You don't mean
Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'll be wrong, and there won't be, but there will be I am confident enough in the American people
that guy at that store would.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we haven't ran into anybody yet, and she's talking about what happened at Michael's. You're talking about what happened? Oh, he would, because he's a total Mary. These are these like beta boy tyrants. I'll tell them about it when I come back. I did tell them about it on the show yesterday, and I tweeted about it. Tell you what, this is the problem with not having any consequences for your actions, right? So once upon a time, it used to be that people would, if they did something wrong, they expected consequences. But now, because they're so few and far between, that there are times where there are consequences for doing something wrong. Unfortunately, that people now feel even betas, they feel emboldened to try to punish you until they run into the wall, though, right? So that's this. It's really the mindset is really no different, though, Laura, right? So this is sadly what happens. You call Trump a Nazi for 4 years. You tell everybody, look, they convinced James Hodgkinson, the baseball park shooter. Yeah. They convinced him Trump was a traitor who colluded with Putin. It was all over his Facebook page. Before Facebook took down his page, we took all those screenshots and reported it. He really believed Donald Trump was a traitor who colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the election. He viewed Republican lawmakers as enablers to the traitor. He did. So he took some guns, a lot of ammunition, drove off to go gun down some Republican lawmakers practicing for a charitable congressional baseball game. You think if after everything you've witnessed over the last 4 years, guys, how many NSA employees leaking stuff and risking jail time? People who worked at Senate Intelligence Committees for years, right? Long time. I'm talking about permanent fixtures in the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Justice, everything you've seen the media do, because this is like a brave new world. You're telling me that if ballots land like this on somebody like that's mailbox ballot requests, they're not going to fill out those ballot requests? This was Macomb, Michigan, by the way. That's Florida. That guy doesn't even live there, and neither does his son. They don't live there anymore. I mean, we got so many of those. I just keep them in my upload as my default. But when we asked people to send us those images, we were inundated.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that it doesn't have to be some centralized organization that Joe Biden talked about. They created the mentality for people to do this. And that's why I would tell Republicans, don't focus only on Wayne County, because it's not only Wayne County. Don't focus only on Milwaukee, because it's not only Milwaukee. Don't focus only on Philadelphia, because it's not only Philadelphia. The system itself is there. Not only, last thing before the break, not only are there not robust integrity laws, whatever little bit of integrity, whatever little bit of safeguards there were removed in these states before this election. And they gave them a historic amount of time to meddle with that vast new pool of votes. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
I took him out of context, didn't I? Right? Didn't I take him out of context? Isn't that what they said? I'm taking him out of context there. taking them out of context. Anyway, the former vice president and leader of the fake office of the president-elect sprained his ankle the other day playing with his dog. This is going to be fun. This is going to be something. The man is not, this man is not, he can't even play with his dogs. And he's fit, and I mean physically, like fit to lead the free world. You're joking, right? He can't play with his dogs without spraining his ankle. He gets 4 people to a public event. He doesn't win a single pivot county in Iowa. He loses 19 out of the 20 top bellwether counties in the United States of America. He doesn't flip anything back in middle America, and he wins 80 million votes. That would be an anomaly, folks. That would be a statistical anomaly. One they can't answer for. They simply cannot answer it. He fractured it. Not even a sprain. My fault. And Joel, I saw your comment during the break. It's exactly right. I mean, in some cases, apparently the United States Postal Service was acting as the personal ballot harvester for the Democratic Party, ballot harvest organization for the Democratic Party. So unless you want to just take these people as liars, what incentive does an election official in Wayne County or Milwaukee have to come forward and say, in fact, we were taught to do this? We were told and instructed to do this. In Wisconsin, by the way, you cannot hide from the fact that a judge had to tell election officials to stop publicizing on Facebook that you can claim indefinite confinement status because of COVID, because you could not. It was not a legitimate reason to claim indefinite confinement. You can't answer for the fact that there are usually only a few thousand people who do that every election. And yet this time we're talking about potentially a couple 100,000. You just can't answer for any of these anomalies. You can't answer for the anomalies that the 6 states that stopped counting are the 6 states that put the moratorium on their integrity laws, and are the 6 states that had absentee ballots come in that, first of all, didn't match. I mean, we have the numbers. We have the final absentee ballot numbers, folks. 2.4 million in the state of Pennsylvania. That's why the Biden campaign was using that figure in press calls, which they were on. This is why I'm telling you it's more than just them being wrong. They're freaking liars. They were on those press calls too. The Biden campaign was using these metrics to determine whether or not Donald Trump would hit an election day margin, hit an election day target to defeat them. And he did. He hit the Biden campaign's own targets for defeat across these states. Those states in question are the same states where the election day vote was apparently not enough to overturn the absentee ballot voting and the mail-in voting, while everywhere else it was. That is an anomaly. There are just too many for me to just turn a blind eye. There are too many for me to just swallow. And as I told you before, leading up into this election, this idea that there were going to be 30 million more voters almost, if there was, it would be a sign that there is something wrong. Population growth does not account for that. The voter file has not shifted that much. And while the voter file is over 200 million, they're not legitimate records. This is another thing they're lying to you about. There is no way to reach 100% turnout in the United States of America because there aren't 100% valid records on the voter file. The number of change of address flags on the voter file is always smaller than the true number because people don't run to the election officials after they leave a state and tell them that they're gone. The number of deceased voters on the voter file is always less than the actual number of deceased voters because you don't call them after grandma and grandpa or mom and dad die and tell them to take them off the voter rolls. It takes time.
It should just be included.
The system is never up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that there could even be 90% or 93 or even in the 80s, the mid to high 80s is ludicrous. Ludicrous. This is really foolish. And I don't know what you mean by not true. It is true. Do you want to see it? You want to see how many records in Georgia alone are not legitimate? Let's do it real quick. Let's do it. Let's go. Give me a second. Let me pop up the voter file. And as much as I'd love to give them credit, everybody's afraid to talk about this. So nobody wants you to tell them. Nobody wants you to tell who the vendor is, right? So what's his name? Who's also investigating voter fraud? He's not giving the names of the vendors because they don't want to be a part. They don't want to be targeted.
Yes.
They don't want to be targeted. All right. So here's the voter file. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the state of Georgia, and I'm going to show you off the jump how many are not unique individuals.
But that alone, being attacked for telling the truth, should just prove one thing. That
Yeah.
they're guilty.
There is 7.6 million and change records on the voter rolls in Georgia. Only 6.6 are unique individuals. Beyond that, there's actually there's more. What do we mean by that? There could be duplicate records. There could be individuals who have who are not just simply not unique. There's same address over and over. Yeah, I mean, right. There could be maiden names. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. There could be like Laura, for instance. Her maiden name could be on the voter record from 16 years ago. And it's incredible that there are records this old and dirty, but there are. It just goes on. And actually, Laura, I'll give them a couple examples. I'm not going to show them, but I'll read out loud a couple people that are on the voter roll. So we're dead or change of address. All right. And when they first registered. Okay. So for instance, Will Bishop, his birthday is 1924. Okay. August 2nd, 1924. I mean, it's crazy, right? He first registered in the state of Georgia in 1960, March 14th, 1960. He's now 96 years old. All right. He has a deceased flag and a change of address flag. So it means he left a while ago and then died in another state. He is still on the voter rolls in Florida. We can't get the election day. I mean, in Georgia, we can't get the election day rolls yet in the state of Georgia, but that is exactly what we need to be able to compare the list that as we have compiled of suspected election day deceased active voters. So there's some people who, like Walter Miller, he was born in 1931, July 23rd, 1931. He first registered in the state of Georgia on January 1st, 1960. Probably was never a legitimate record because how the hell did he register on New Year's Day? Are you hearing me, guys? Here's another one. Gwendolyn Osby, born January 6th, 1933. She first registered on New Year's Day in 1964. That's odd, don't you think? Here's another one. Leslie Rouser. She was born December 10th, 1943. She first registered on New Year's Day, 1972. What's their excuse for this? It's a default registration date. They don't know their actual registration dates. You're kidding me, right? Like, my point here to tell you is how dirty these records are. How dirty they are. And what PolitiFact lied about, because that's what they do, they're freaking liars, instead of having the professional courtesy to set the record straight. When Snopes did, by the way, there are 130,000 plus change of address flags in Fulton County alone. That means there are actually a lot more because the state takes time to catch up. And yet they say there's some robust safeguard about you or your mother or your father or whoever taking their absentee ballot request and filling it in. What safeguard? If the election officials in Fulton County won't show us the damn signatures, then how the hell are we supposed to know that Sam McFall was born in 1933, May 16th, right? Also registered New Year's Day, 1964, has been dead, okay? His death date was June 21st, 2010. How are we who was going to stop Sam, somebody from filling in Sam's ballot?
So he died when he was 70 something.
He's an active voter.
And is active voter.
He's an active voter. And then some of these people are supposed to fall off, like Barbara Holland. She died in 2009, Laura. She registered 1939, April 14th. She first registered in 1970. I'm sorry, that was her birthday. Barbara Holland died November 14th, 2009. All right, this is crazy. Robust safeguards. This is nuts. And we can keep going down the list. There are no robust safeguards. There is almost nothing. And in fact, some of these people were inactive and then reactivated, which is why we put them on a list of suspected dead election day voters. But if you're a party official, if you are an independent investigator like us, the Georgia Secretary of State will not make known the list of election day voters. They will not make known the difference between military ballots and absentee ballots on the official list of mail-in balloting that they have put out. They will not make known the reason that some ballots were canceled for administrative cause, specific records, when the voter tells us they voted for Donald Trump by mail. And yet their ballot was obviously canceled for administrative cause. Robust safeguards, my foot.
But let's flip the roles. What if this all happened to Biden?
Oh my God. Could you, Laura, for 4 years, we were told this president colluded with Russia and stole the election. The very same experts who were saying that there are robust safeguards were just 4 years ago pushing conspiracy theories that the Russians hacked voting machines.
Thank you.
Which is why I won't go down that damn rabbit hole, because I'm not going to be them. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just not going to be them.
No, but it's just like you say, it's good for thee, but not for me.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's worth pointing out the inconsistency. The disparity between how we're all treated. Absolutely. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I'm not going to sound like them. I'm just not going to sound like there's enough on this alone. You understand what I'm saying? There's enough on this alone.
This
all right.
alone is enough to prove that the integrity of the election is flawed.
in doubt.
It's in doubt.
Absolutely, it
in
is.
its entirety. And all they're doing is
who was doing this?
Underneath.
Who was doing this, Laura? Even if, all right, take these idiots at face value, which I don't. All right, because how do we know they weren't counted on election day since they won't share that list with us? How do we know that those signatures match with the list that we put together? How do we know if they won't share the signatures with us? You can't just take these people at their word, but let's just pretend and take them at their word. Okay. The bottom line is there's enough. Who was doing it? There's enough to more than suggest. There's enough to prove that somebody was doing this stuff. And doesn't anyone want to answer that question? Doesn't anyone want to say who the hell was submitting all these ballots? Who was doing this? Because really, I think in the end too, it's more than just what Joe Biden was saying, even though people say we take him out of context, it's really more than that. It really is, because in the end, there could just be a large explanation, or an explanation for a large number of these ballots could just simply be that they made it so damn easy for other people, everyday people, to cheat, to do something wrong by sending out all of these requests, right? So if you are a Trump hater and 6 absentee ballot requests land in your mailbox, and then you hear on the news that they're not going to be checking signatures, and you think to yourself, you know what? I think I'm going to fill in those ballots.
I'll be a hero.
I'm a hero. because he's a Nazi anyway. I'm the hero in this story. I'm not the one breaking the law.
And I won't be penalized.
That's
because
right.
They're not checking.
And these clerks are not right. And these clerks are not checking anyway.
So you embolden people.
And this is, you do. And this enables the election, the affidavits from the election officials. This enables, I'm not on.
Okay.
This enables, or not, boosts the credibility of the affidavits that we're reading, right? Because why on earth would you not let someone look over your shoulder to see if the envelope signature and the ballot signature matches? Why would you not do that if you didn't do, or if you were not up to something wrong?
Let's be honest. If they don't allow you to check, every time a Democrat or any left-wing party closes down the ability to verify something and prove and have them prove to you that you're wrong,
Right.
only means one thing. Because if I'm guilty of something, I'm not going to show you the evidence to prove that I'm guilty of it.
Right. And we have laws for a reason. Like what you just said, we have laws because if you enable people to do something wrong, they will do it. That's why we have laws. Like Adam said, we don't have laws because men are angels,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not why we have laws. We have laws because if you don't, in a state of nature, then people will do something wrong. They will injure others, right? They will take the road most traveled, the low road, right? And what I'm showing you here, guys, this is very typical how we would do something, all right? So for instance, these are this is a list of just random, and there's a hit right there. See, this is random people. There's another one. There's random people that we'll pull. And then based on the percentage of people that we'll find in these lists, that's how we'll determine whether or not there's a problem, like a systemic issue. Okay, we don't have to pull the entire list first. It's very expensive. I mean, if you guys haven't been watching Matt's Twitter feed, it goes to show you how expensive it really is. So this is why really Laura and I have been doing so much thinking about the best way to go forward here. And the best way really in the future is to do this not for profit, okay, but as a nonprofit that really is dedicated toward election integrity, and that they raise money for doing this. It'll be something people who want to contribute can write off. And then also too, it takes the profit incentive out of this, which I think is the more ethical way to go to move forward. Yeah. And then from there, we will amass evidence. We will conduct polling to show where the public stands on this. And then we will target people. Yeah, we will find solutions. We will go through, right. We'll come up with the most detailed and effective public policy people. And then we will absolutely target political figures and dismantle their careers if they don't come along with this. All right, so that's it. I don't know about, look, I don't want to be in the Linwood stuff, guys. I'll be honest with you. All right, that's just not where I come from. There's enough simply with the change in the mail-in ballot system. It was not like absentee ballot voting in Florida or something like that, or even in Arizona, a state which is 80% a mail-in vote, usually 20% election day vote. That was not the same this year. It was not conducted in the same manner as it has always been conducted. There were the election integrity laws that we're talking about, deadlines, right? Verification procedures, who qualifies for certain status and who doesn't. These bars were not met. This was not the same at all. And if we allow this to be a permanent thing, then that's a problem. That's a real problem. Yeah, we need signature checks in Wisconsin. Absolutely. There are more states than that. There are really more. And it's more than that. So I wish I could show it. If I open it up, it's going to crash like it did on What Are the Odds? I was trying to show people on What Are the Odds the number of votes that were not counted on election day, because the person just showed up And I was trying to show people that, and it crashed the system, and Robert had to carry the segment for like 5 minutes until I came back. It's that many. It's that many. It crashed my browser.
That's sad.
It's incredible. Meanwhile, they have no rejection rates. None. Almost. A simple return to a historic rejection rate would flip Georgia, not only flip it to Donald Trump, it would easily give Donald Trump the state of Georgia. Easily. Because we're talking about so many more ballots this time around. Right? And we've gone over that in the past, guys. I've seen counties toss 100% of the absentee ballot. 100%. I just got a meeting invitation from Zoom for human events. That's not during the show, is it? Okay. All right. I'm just making sure. I know you're better than that. I know you're better than that. I just got that. I'll stay in my lane. I'll stay in my lane. Speaking of lane, all right. So if you guys want to take a couple of seconds to go through the comments and give your suggestions, I'd love to hear them. We want to ask about pretty much what we told you about. And then I also think that it's probably wiser to poll just the states that matter, right? Because the RNC is incompetent, Angie. The RNC is incompetent. Robert is right. Some of these people should probably
retire and never come back.
No, some of these people should probably be like sued for fraud.
Oh yes.
Because they raise money on things that they don't believe in or champion. They claim is for something that it's not. All right. So we're gonna, I don't know how many text messages you guys are getting that says, give us money to raise money for the Trump Defense Fund or the fight voter fraud fund. And it's not. I mean, there are people that are doing that work, but that is not what these people are doing with that money. I can tell you right now, the RNC is not giving the Republican Party in Georgia a damn bit of assistance, aside from allowing them to use data center.
Oh, that's mighty nice.
How nice, right? And that's it. But they're not helping them. I mean, that's it. And the reason why I told people I saw the other comment there, to focus on Georgia is because it would be so easy. It would be the easiest one. And then once one domino falls,
that's my fault.
Once one domino falls, the rest fall. I didn't even see it, Laura, so don't worry.
Okay.
All right, listen, I'm going to take a quick, throw out your suggestions because we are going to get back to, I'm going to pull up Alchemer and we're going to do the online version right after the show today. And we're going to go over the poll later in the week. I'd like to get this out and done as quick as I possibly can, but you know how I am, right? I feel like I need to collect more. We'll collect more. But the bottom line is, I think we should do what almost like the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic battleground poll that we did. That's why, guys, yeah, I mean, we raised enough for a national, but if you want to contribute, you absolutely can. I mean, we're just going to float the rest because we're running out of time. And so if we raise the rest, then great. But we're running out of time, so we have to do it. Let me give you a real quick update on what we did raise. It's like $5,000, something like. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice chunk. There's no doubt. But if we want to do the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest Mid-Atlantic battleground poll, which was Wisconsin, Minnesota, which we could leave out Minnesota this time. We don't need Minnesota. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. We could do that, which would bring it down to about close to $8,000. It would be closer to 8 instead of whatever it was before, 9 or 10, right? But that would take 1,000 responses off the top, like bam, because we don't need Minnesota. Plus, Minnesota takes a while, but Minnesota's not in doubt. Our poll was pretty much accurate in Minnesota. Joe Biden won Minnesota, and even with guys, I mean, that was a pretty significant win. So I don't know how you could even make the argument, like I've heard some people make, that they did something wrong in Minnesota. Maybe they did, but that doesn't account for that kind of a win. You can't. I mean, really, hanky panky is good for a few points. All right, it's not good for what 8, 9, 10, right? And Joe Biden ultimately won Minnesota by about 7. The margin shrunk. So I guess some late votes came in for Trump that brought it down.
They're trying to save face.
But ultimately, He couldn't flip Carlton. He came very close. And our polling was right about that. In Lake, very close. But our polling did suggest that he was going to come up short in areas like Clay, Carlton, and Lake. And in fact, he did. Really, though, what happened is big vote, of course, in Hennepin. Big vote in Dakota. Big vote in Washington. Trump did pretty good, 45%. In Dakota was 42. You just got to do better than that. And he lost Olmsted County, which is something that really should have. And Winona. He lost Winona, too, by a point. You just can't do that. Well, no, it was less than a point. Can I check on that real quick? It was supposed to be close. Very, very close. Less than a point. I'm wrong about that. It's more like a couple hundred votes, probably. But we were right. So 7, we overestimated Biden, but wow, that sucks. That's not good. We overestimated Biden by if he won by 7, by 5 points. Wow, that's a big overestimation. I'm not happy with that at all. We got to go back and look and see what it is in Minnesota that made us lean too Democratic. Yeah, that's one for the Slimer fraud, right? So, oh yeah, well, even when those polls, are legit, they lean to Trump too much. They have a Trump bias. It just overestimated Joe Biden by 5 freaking points. What are you talking about? We overestimated him by 2 points in Wisconsin, albeit with a caveat. And I said if I was wrong about the electorate, then Donald Trump would win the state of Wisconsin. And here's yet another anomaly that bothers me, Laura. I was wrong about the electorate. Not very wrong, but wrong enough that it would have been a Trump +1 or a little, or a tie favoring Trump slightly, very much like Pennsylvania. So that's another anomaly that's bothering me. How did we get all of these groups correctly? How they voted correctly? And the only difference we basically got was a little bit off in the region and party. So if you were to account for that and reweight that, it would be like Trump by 1.5.
It's something.
Doesn't make sense, Laura. We were absolutely right about Juneau County. We had Juneau County at about 65% for Donald Trump. And he got what? What did he get it with? Double check here. He won Juneau County, the bellwether, 63.94%. So about 64%. All right. Let's take that break. While we're on break, I'm going to read your suggestions. All right. I think that basically we should stick to the states that matter. Who the hell cares about a national poll? Because the national popular vote is skewed so badly now from the Electoral College. We're really at a point where California makes up Joe Biden's entire popular vote lead. You believe that? Almost his entire. 5 out of the 6 million votes is California alone, because California is now so badly skewed. 34% of the vote Donald Trump won in California. And that is just crazy. Meanwhile, he stomped Joe Biden in Florida, the second most popular, or third, right? Anyway, we'll be back. Suggestions on questions appreciated, and I'll take them into consideration. I'm really thinking that focus on absentee ballot voting, mail-in voting, focus on even voter ID. We should ask that again. Poll watching, right? Whether or not there should be oversight. And then Barnes had an idea, I love it, about voting machines themselves, electronic systems. Do you favor, yes, paper ballots like the Canadians do it? Maybe we'll give them a nice example of Canadians. Then we'll also explain how many European countries have outlawed vote by mail, because they have, because it's so fraud ridden. All right. And if you guys have any other suggestions, we'd love to hear. The links, by the way, are in the video description. Sign up for the newsletter to Inside the Numbers. You can sign up to the other ones too if you want. Those of you who already signed up, we don't bombard you. We will start sending out a daily newsletter. That's all right with you, but we don't believe in bombarding the hell out of people, so we don't do it. It's really because we're building a video platform, and if and when something happens, then that'll be the only way. If you're a YouTube subscriber right now, you get a notification that says Inside the Numbers is going live, but you have no way of getting that notification if we're just going to be on the website, right? That's going to be our notification. So subscribe to it. Also, of course, if you're on Facebook, we'd very much appreciate if you mosey on over to Facebook, hit the like button on People's Pundit Daily. All right. And of course, the Venmo and PayPal links for contributing to the poll are in the video description. We're almost there, but I want to do those 3 states, which costs more money to do a conglomerate of states than it does to do a national poll. I know that sounds totally backward, but that is what it is. You're talking about, this is another reason why I don't like national polls. But Laura, our national poll for the Epoch Times, conducted in late September, is going to be more accurate. In fact, it is right now currently dead on the money. All right. It is more accurate than the New York Times poll that was conducted a few weeks. It's more accurate than it's so sad. We're Biden +4. It is currently Biden +4. So and by the way, the Electoral College model gave Donald Trump a greater than 80% chance of winning the Electoral College if it was Biden +4 or less. So again, another anomaly. All right. So there we go. If you want to know, if you wanted us to check on whether your vote counted, email Laura. And we will absolutely do that. Producer we need your name, we need your birthday, we need your zip code. All right. And the county you live in.
Or precinct.
County is best. Yep. County's best. I mean, if precinct level data is being hoarded this year, another very suspicious, not normal data point. All right. And so is congressional level stuff as well. But in any event, if you email Laura at producer@peoplespunditdaily.com, we will definitely check to see whether your vote counted. We're getting them all the time, and we are checking. And that's how we found some other issues in just blue areas, very blue places. I mean, you would think there's no reason to play games in the state of Delaware. Yet in Kent County, Delaware, we got a group of people, and it's true because, I mean, the sector they're in is very liberal. But out of everyone who voted for Joe Biden, their vote counted, and we located their absentee ballot. But the 17 out of all of them that voted for Donald Trump did not count. And by the way, Kent County was decided by about 3,000 votes. There are 3 counties in Delaware. Newcastle is the very liberal one and the very populated one. All right. But Kent County was actually close this time, which is a little bit funny. And 17 here, 17 there. All right. I mean, you'd be surprised it adds up. All right. We'll be back. Venmo.com/People's Pundit, PayPal.me/People's Pundit. But they're in the video description. Really, hit the like button. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Simple best way.
All right. Yeah. So it does seem a lot of people want us to focus on modes of voting, like how people prefer it, whether or not it be through machine voting, whether or not it be through paper ballot voting. Definitely. I agree. That's a great example. I was just, while Laura was reading your things, I'm going through all this crap that Twitter has. Voting by mail is legal and safe. Experts and data confirm. And they got all these stories: Fox 5 Atlanta, Los Angeles Times, LA Times, the Atlanta Journal, ABC News, USA Today. Totally false. All of it totally false. And once acknowledged to be false on a bipartisan basis. All right. Even Jerry Nadler and Jimmy Carter and other liberals have once acknowledged to be. They are literally changing long-standing beliefs, long-standing consensus in one election cycle, for one election cycle. If it is safe, then why do European countries outlaw it? Why do other Western nations outlaw it? Why? If it's safe. Why did the bipartisan report on election integrity suggest, recommend, and identify that we outlaw it and identify it as the most fraud prone? Why did the New York Times, just 2012, when Democrats thought that Republicans were going to use vote by mail to steal the election from Barack Obama? If signature verification isn't so important, then why did Obama use signature verification to reject ballots for his opponent? That's how Barack Obama got in office. That is literally how he started his career. Everything for Donald Trump can be changed. It doesn't matter what institution, what norm, they got to go to stop Barack Obama. How old they are, they got to go. It doesn't matter how badly you got to shill, you shill. Because it's Donald Trump. We got to stop Donald Trump. Really is Orwellian. This is Orwellian as hell. I feel like I'm living in a Twilight Zone. They're the same people who said something very different 6 months ago have now completely done 180s. Incredible. By the way, I can't wait for James O'Keefe to drop those tapes. Reliable sources just mocked Maria Bartiromo as a formerly credible journalist who now shills for the president on election fraud. All right? They just said that in their newsletter last night. Now look at them. Now look at them. Barack Obama never would have won that election. Never. Anyway, here we go. So let's get back to suggestions. What suggestions did we come up with?
Basically, everybody wants the voter machines gone, and they're talking about yeah. So okay, we'll add a question about machines versus other voting modes. We'll say, France outlaws it, Canada outlaws it, France does it this way. Which way would you prefer it? And we know from, I don't think I still have any of the graphics uploaded, but they're not fooling anybody. They're not fooling anyone. We asked this question leading up to the election in every single battleground state we polled.
And even in a state like Florida, which has been doing absentee ballot voting for many, many years, half the electorate before the election thought that this was going to be a fraudulent election.
And somebody said paper, pencil, open film counts is the best way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll ask different modes. We'll see what people say. But we can't leave this up to Reuters and Morning Consult and Harvard Harris. I mean, not a single one of these
if
people.
They didn't have integrity polling the election itself.
I know.
What
That's
makes
the.
you think that all of a sudden they're going to
That's
tell
right.
the truth and be like, get a little epiphany, like, let me be honest.
Yeah, that's
this
right.
One time.
Laura, there's only one way to measure the accuracy of a pollster. They can release results on issues and current events all they want, but there's no way to tell whether or not they're accurate. There's only one indicator. That's election day. And if you can't poll an election, then you can't poll anything else. You can't. I mean, this is nuts. This is nuts. And hiding the evidence of something. Okay, I just want to say this too. Hiding the evidence by not allowing us to review signature match. Hiding the evidence is not the same as there being no evidence. Like, affidavits are evidence that has to be investigated further. Anomalies, statistical anomalies, are evidence that have to be investigated. But hiding the object proof is not the same as there not being evidence. Like Barnes said, the Secretary of State promised that he would make all of these available. He did not in Georgia.
Shocker.
He did not. So that's it. I mean, that's bottom line.
And I love that how it's like the double standard. Like they try.
That's right.
On the news face, say, "Oh, we're working with them," and then behind closed doors, it's threatening their careers. It's nothing but stalling tactics.
That's right.
To prevent real information getting
That's absolutely true. And I will answer what Mike Tracy is saying. At the time with those metro areas, those weren't. Biden did not outperform Hillary at the time in those metro areas. When I put that out there, he only did that weeks later. Okay, I mean, I'm talking about the vote that was available to us at the time of that tweet. At that time, there was only 4 metro areas where he conclusively outperformed Hillary Clinton. And at that time, they had underperformed everywhere else. Almost everywhere. I mean, generally everywhere else. Big metro areas, not just battleground metro areas either. I was talking about everywhere, right? And in those states that mattered was that specific thread that I did, yes. But that's the answer to Mike Tracy. I mean, Mike, if you want to count votes 2 weeks later, knock yourself out. But that's not how civilized nations conduct elections. All right. Brazil just wrapped up an election in 3 hours, dude.
I know.
Are you kidding me? Are you joking, bro? I mean, really, I think that, and I respect some of the work he does, but I really think that people who don't have any campaign experience should probably just stop commenting on something they don't understand. If you don't have any experience on the ground and you don't know how elections are conducted and what leads to potential abuses, then you should just stop. I mean, you should just pretty much give it a break because you don't know how easy it is. It is easy. That's why we don't allow, after 8 p.m., we don't allow secretaries of elections in Florida to magically come up with 35,000, 50,000, 75,000, 150,000 more absentee ballots. Because after that period, that deadline is over, everything is in doubt. When Pennsylvania tells you that 3.1 million were requested, but over a 2-week period, 2.4 were returned, and then you want us to believe 18% magically appeared in the 3 days after the election, there's something wrong there. You understand what you're saying? It took 2 weeks to amass 2.4. And by the way, 3.1 was not requested. That is not true. That is not the real number. Because in many of these areas, there were auto triggers, and Pennsylvania is one of them. It counted as a requested ballot, but it just meant someone voted in the primary before the election. It didn't mean they actually submitted a request to get that ballot. That's another thing you don't understand. They didn't actually request them. That's just how much went out. And that is the point. Rapidly expand it. Rapidly expand the pool of potential votes that you could meddle with. That's it. And voting, voter fraud, election fraud, and voter fraud happen every single election. The only question ever was whether or not it happened on some widespread scale and whether or not it had an impact on the actual result. Did it change the result? Every year we have indictments for prior years for voter fraud. Every year someone gets caught. Every cycle somebody gets caught. If you didn't see it this time, you weren't paying attention. There was a massive conspiracy in Philadelphia just 2 months before this election. It included judges in wards, election judges. There were other indictments that included postal workers. I mean, you just weren't paying attention. All right. So what are these posters paid by the candidate? No, I mean, in many, no. In media example, well, that's actually Hart Research, who I believe polls for NBC sometimes. They have a habit of double dipping, but for the most part, a media pollster really should not then go and poll for a campaign. Can you poll for a media outlet one moment and then when you're not polling for them, poll for a campaign? Yeah, that's legitimate. I mean, as long as you still don't have an active relationship releasing results, that's my standard. Like, so if I'm polling for the Epoch Times, I'm not going to take on a campaign that impacts the polling I'm conducting for the Epoch Times. That's not ethical. And Hart has done that before. He did for Hillary Clinton and for NBC at the same time. That's not legitimate. That's not ethical. There's something wrong there. You can't double dip. It's like double dipping. And you have clients that have conflicting interests. So the media outlet is supposed to want just the most accurate result possible, while your campaign client, of course, wants the same. But it wouldn't hurt your campaign client if media polls, which are supposed to be objective and without a bias, are showing that you're also doing better than you are potentially doing. Because then your campaign, why is there a conflict? If a media poll shows your candidate doing well, your candidate's going to boost fundraising. If your candidate boosts fundraising, they're going to have more money to pay you to conduct the polls. You understand what I'm saying? It's like you're creating a market for your own work. And that is not ethical at all. And Rich was, they were wrong. Hillary Clinton did not win by 12 points. You know what I mean? Or whatever, some ridiculous margin he came up with at the same time he was polling for her. That's not right. That is not right. It's not legit. You're creating a market for your own damn work. Yes, if you and yes, I'm going to just say you should absolutely call your state legislators. They absolutely, if you want them to do something, if you're a Trump supporter, there's nothing wrong with you putting pressure on these people. You should do it. You should probably do it every day if that's what you want, because the left would do it. There were, in fact, people on the left 4 years ago who were arguing for the same remedy. Okay? Their only problem was that Democrats didn't control state legislatures. Not enough of them. Not in those states where it mattered. Republicans do. They do. And that's a good question. What do I think about the congressional race in New York you're talking about? I'll bring that up right now. This is a travesty. This is a third world travesty. Okay? This is a great example of what I'm talking about. And in fact, there were ballots that were rejected and invalidated in this race where Democrats ran to a judge, got the judge to basically, again, halt the, put a moratorium on verification procedures. And now Claudia Tenney has a real problem. The vote is currently separated by about 198 ballots, something like that. All right. There's another one in New York too, which is even more really more egregious. So Claudia Tenney had a lead. It has been shrinking consistently. The voting count stopped. We have the universe of votes, right? It's well within recount, and Brindisi has every right to ask for one when you have an election that close. All right. But what they're trying to do is and they did, in fact, it's a matter of how many will now be able to be counted. There were ballots that were rejected in the initial count, and they want them counted now. And congratulations, they got a judge to do just that. This is what I'm talking about. It looks like Lee Zeldin's race was called this morning. I forgot to tell you guys that. I'm sorry. But look at the estimated vote left in this race. 73.7% to 86.5%. This is third world crap that New York's first congressional district cannot count votes 4 weeks later, still claiming to have upwards of a quarter of the vote out. This is not legitimate, and anyone who tells you it's legitimate is full of crap. There's just too much opportunity to meddle. Too much opportunity to meddle. And then we still do have this race out here while we're on it. Come on. There we go. Iowa House 2 is now 32 votes out of almost 400,000 votes. It is separated by 32 votes. All right. The Republican Marionette Miller Meeks, is in the lead by a whopping 32 votes over Rita Hart. All right. So we're going to have to wait for that. This was a race that last minute polling, that's legitimate polling, did favor the Republican by several points. And ballots, in House 2, they did this after 18 as well. We had ballots that just continued to trickle in. Trump's lead was so big, it's statewide, of course, it can be called. But when you get down to congressional districts like this, it can really be, it can have an impact. It absolutely can. Iowa House 1 was a few points closer than people thought maybe it would be. People who were right. The polling showed Democrats were going to gain seats. Understand that. Like a CNN Democrat plus 12 means that's a projection Democrats would actually gain seats. The Economist, go to Inside Elections, Stu Rottenturd, and you'll see how many seats that ended up going to Republicans were listed as solid Democrat. Donna Shalala, Florida 27, was solid Democrat. And the other two election models, Tiny Crystal Balls, and I forgot the other one. That's how little I care about these people. Oh, Cooked Books.
Oh,
Cookbooks, yeah. Cook Political Report. Cook.
Somebody actually thought Stu Rottenturd was his
good. Good. You know what? I'll have to change his name again. It used to be the Rothenberg Report or the Rottenturd Report, but he blew 2016 so badly, and that was after he blew 2014 as well, and it was so bad that they changed the name, right? Because he lost his credibility. So they changed it to Inside Elections, and he relies only on the goodwill of his swamp class, right? His swamp status to keep him going. In truth, he's a horrible election projection model forecaster. They know nothing. They have, look, Larry's a nice guy. I actually think Larry's a nice guy, though, and I know a lot of people give me crap for that, but I like, that's Tiny Crystal Balls. But he's it is. He's a nice guy, though. He is. He just is biased, and his bias is bleeding through into his election model. He got everything wrong again. He got Florida wrong again.
They should all get together and start one firm, so at least you can
They should just compile it all into one big ball of crap, and that's it. I will say this, though. Larry, at least, and this is why I do separate Larry from the rest of them. I do, because Larry at least has some missed calls in the wrong direction. So Larry refused to move Georgia. He did. And it was, in fact, I believe it was rated likely Republican the whole time. I could be wrong, guys, but I don't think he moved Georgia. And that was the right call. It was. Nobody expected what happened in Georgia to happen. Really. Population growth does not account for this. It just doesn't. All right.
But that's their answer for everything.
It is.
Population grew. Oh,
You know why? Because it's so obscure. It's almost like they don't think you can go back and compare other areas, other metro areas that experience similar growth to be able, like the Dallas metro area, Austin. The two biggest, fastest growing metro areas are in Texas, and they did not shift to Biden in the same direction. Dallas was I believe he did outperform in the end. He did outperform Hillary in Dallas-Fort Worth, but barely, not much.
I really
significant.
want to know why Biden has so many anomalies that no other election has ever had.
And let me just get through this before we wrap up and I get to start. No, I just got to go build this questionnaire. Louisiana House 5 is the last remaining seat. That will be a Republican seat. All right. So the crazy jungle primary rules in Louisiana, that's the way everything is, whether it's a statewide race, everybody and their mother gets in. If nobody gets 50% of the vote, then there has to be a runoff. As you can clearly see, the top two Democratic candidates in this race got 26.8% of the combined vote, so they will get killed in Louisiana House 5 once Luke Letlow has the field consolidated. And that's where it's going to go. So at this moment, with what's his name seat called, we're at +9 with Lee Zeldin's seat called, Representative Zeldin. That's now a +9 House pickup for Republicans, -9 for Democrats. I do think that what is going on in New York is a tragedy, because once ballots have been DQ'd, a woman or a man in a black robe should not have that kind of power. That power lies with the legislature. And then the election officials themselves, they don't even have that kind of power. They're just supposed to be ones who carry out the standards laid out by the state legislature, right? Mm-hmm. That really is their only role in most, in the most of these areas, right? I did already, John, discuss New York 22, and I just said it again, but basically what's going on there, it's separated right now by about 188 votes or something. Basically what's going on is Brindisi wanted ballots that were already rejected to be counted. We do have what is really the near universe of ballots that we know of, even though it says estimated at 99, there could be more, but that's not what the issue is. The issue is votes that were tossed out or disqualified in the first round for not meeting the standard, running and getting post-election. So after game day, running and changing the rules so that they can count those ballots. And that's what Brindisi wanted. That's what Brindisi got. And Claudia Tenney has got to hold on with 186 vote lead. That's it. And then if you weren't in Iowa House 2, if you weren't paying attention, that was actually closer. 32 votes is the difference there. And then Louisiana House. And by the way, all of these people have a right to a recount. These are close races. Very close races. If you're a Democrat, you're trailing, you absolutely have a right to a recount in a race this close. I mean, that's 50-50 statistically speaking. And then Louisiana House 5 is the only other one remaining uncalled, and that will absolutely go to the Republican. Excuse me. That will go to the Republican once it is done. Mike Garcia's race was also called yesterday. Yes. I know others didn't. It was called, I believe, late last night. I was watching it and it popped. All right. So there we have it. All right, guys. Again, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get started. Let's find out what voters think, what voters have to say. All right. And I am going to stick to voters. I don't really care about adults. I don't. I'm going to stick to, we'll do registered voters. Okay. Because there's no reason at this moment, to try to decipher likely voters. But maybe we could I would have liked to get one in Georgia because there's a runoff there. I really would have. Maybe I will add Georgia. Maybe I'll add Georgia. It's just so important because there's a runoff and also because of the dynamics of that race. I mean, the bottom line is if you have 75% in Georgia that think that signature match should be done, then they got a real problem over there. I don't know. maybe I will add Georgia. Let me think it over, ladies and gents. Let me think it over. Okay. Statewide is the better way to go, because then you can, it's just a better argument to make. Then you take those legislators are going to be looking at specific results. And it's not just because they care. All they ever do is lick their finger, stick it in the air, and see which way the wind is blowing. That's who these people are. All right. Maybe we will do that, Laura. All right. But we're going to get working on the questionnaire. That questionnaire will be the same depending on what state it is. It doesn't really matter. And then we'll go down the line. All right. All right. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel that you're watching on right now. If you're watching on YouTube, and hit that notification bell, that will let you know when we're about to go live. All right. And don't forget to, if you're on Facebook user still, mosey on over, hit that like button. We'd very much appreciate it. And of course, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to PPD, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. And everybody who has done that and contributed to the polling, even if you didn't contribute, you shared, the
Viewership,
video,
word of mouth.
viewership, word of mouth, all of that. We love you
Make
for
this
it.
all possible.
It makes it all possible. And we love you for it.
And don't forget to follow Rich on Parler.
Oh, yes, you can follow me on Parler, which I will start to spend more time on, which at People's Pundit,
And
no
on
underscore.
Gab, you
All right,
also
I'm not
have-
going to. I am at People's Pundit on Gab, but I just can't go to everyone.
I know.
I just can't. It's not possible. All right. So I just can't. I wish there was some central hub.
That
You
you
know?
went to.
Yeah, I really do. Like a Hootsuite for all of Twitter like things. Ooh, maybe Rich will learn the code. Hashtag learn the code. All right, we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. And let me take a quick look at the economic calendar. It looks like we are going to have to move this to 11 o'clock. The economic calendar is killing me. Well, the ADP report comes out at 8:15. Motor vehicle sales are early in the morning for the consensus on that. Let's leave it at 10 for tomorrow. Let's leave it at 10. But I think at some point, we're going to have to really consider moving the show to 11 o'clock. I just don't like competing with Rush because he kills me. But that's really it. But let's leave it at 10 for tomorrow. And Thursday looks like a very full day. It probably will be later in the day. All right. So I'm going to get to work. Thanks, everybody, for, like I said, all you do. And we will see you tomorrow. All the best.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. love taker.